I'm reading this book by Andrew Peterson called Adorning the Dark. And in the book, he talks about this idea of how, as a creative, he's a songwriter, how there's times where you run up against writer's block. And he has found it most effective to, when that happens, pretend to be a writer. And what he's talking about is he goes and he puts himself in the right outfit, and he gets his notebook out, and he gets in the right atmosphere, so as to sort of cultivate an environment and an aesthetic to attempt to give rise to the actual substantive outcome that he's trying to achieve. And I think this deeply relates to the idea of imitating Christ, in that in many ways it's going to simply be an imitation. Like, none of us are going to live up to the standard of Jesus. We're not going to be as good as Jesus, but in imitating him, in attempting to be like him, in attempting to do the things that he does, that he did, that he modeled for us, we can cultivate an actual heart, which then gives rise to a meaningful and substantive outcome in a deep actual change of character. It's kind of the same concept, I think, as when we want our kids to do the things we're telling them to do. And when they're young, they don't necessarily understand why, but we know that if they will do some of the things that we're asking them to do, when they experience the outcomes of those things, they will then buy into the teaching, because they will experience on an actual heart level. It won't just be head knowledge. They will have experienced the power of it to actually affect their lives in a positive way. And so they'll adopt that teaching. And I think it's the same kind of idea, which is really cool. And I think a lot of us struggle with feeling disingenuous, or we feel like hypocrites, because we want to do a particular thing. We want to be a particular kind of person, but we find ourselves unable to live up to that standard. And I would just want to encourage everyone to keep moving in that direction, because imitating Christ and pretending to be a writer, if you want to write, is honestly, in my opinion, just the wisdom of cultivating all of the things that you can control so as to move your heart into the right position to get the deep, meaningful outcome that you really wish to achieve.